And you have the page number in your bulletin. The page is page 80, if you would read along with me. Beginning chapter 20, verse 45. In the hearing of all the people, Jesus said to the disciples, "Beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and to have the best seats in the synagogues and places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for the sake of appearance say long prayers. They will receive the greater commendation." He looked up and saw rich people putting their gifts into the treasury. And he also saw a poor widow put in 2 small copper coins. He said, "Truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. For all of them have contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in all she had to live on." Thus ends the reading of the word. Well, Jesus is cooking his goose now. He's in the temple. He's been in the temple. He was in the temple last week. You remember what happened last week? The spies came to ask him questions, hoping to get him to incriminate himself, get himself in trouble with the Romans, and be out of there. Because, remember, he has come into the temple in Jerusalem, and he's knocked over the money changers' tables, and he's put the spies, the clergy, on the spot and stunned them into silence. Not a happy. Well, today, he's really going over the edge, because today he's sitting there talking with his disciples in the temple. This temple belongs to the clergy, and he's sitting down there in the temple with his disciples and a lot of other people who want to listen to him sitting around, and he says, "Beware of the scribes." Now, the scribes are a brand of the clergy in the temple. "Beware of the scribes who like to wear long robes." Well, they wear them so they can be recognized. You don't want there to be any doubt who they are. So they dress in long robes, and then everybody knows who they are. Let me fix this. Be up, down. So I have this picture of Jesus describing the pomp and circumstance of the scribes marching through the marketplace, and I have this picture of all sorts of people groveling, bowing down on the ground as the scribes march through the marketplace in their long robes, and giving them samples of stuff, free stuff. And I also have this picture in my mind of the scribes showing up at your dinner party, and you taking your best friend out of the seat next to you and going, get out of there, so that the scribe can sit down. Places of honor at the banquet, sitting at the head table. So Jesus has described these people who are the clergy of the temple in this very, very bad light. And while he's having this discussion, something causes him to look up from the group of people that are with him. And what he sees is the long procession of folks who are bringing their offering to the temple. Now, I segue here because there's a lot of explanation that I need to give you that goes along with this, okay? Everybody who was a good Jew was required to give a half shekel to the temple every year. This was the law for thousands of years. Not a couple of hundred years, for thousands of years. And this all happened. Remember, the first temple was destroyed. When the second temple was built, they had to have a building campaign. And the building campaign said every person who is Jewish will give a half shekel to the cause, and we can get the new temple built. Remember, there wasn't one on every block. There was one in Jerusalem. the temple. So for thousands of years, people are very used to paying their half shekel a year. The only people who are exempt are women, widows, women, female slaves. Yeah, women didn't have to pay. It was optional. It was an optional thing. So the priests had to pay the half shekel. Everybody had to give the half shekel. It wasn't a tax. The half shekel tithe, an obligation. So there are people who are coming into the temple. There were messengers sent out all over Judea, all over Galilee, to collect the half shekel from people. They would come to town and collect it for you. So just in case you couldn't make the pilgrimage to the temple, there were 3 a year, in case you couldn't get to Jerusalem, the messengers from the temple would come out and pick it up for you. Now, they had a very, very rigorous plan of keeping that money safe. If you were a messenger of the temple, you had to say a an oath that had 3 parts. You had to, and that oath, you had to pledge that you would keep your mitts off the dough. And if you brought it to the temple and there was any amount missing, guess who had to make it up? The messenger. So here are people in the temple. They are giving their money. There are 13 chests. Consider yourselves lucky. There are 13 chests in which to give money. 13 horns lining the walls of the temple for you to put money in. And there's the new shekel, and these are called shekalim. I couldn't memorize the 13, I'm sorry. Called shekalim. 13 trumpets. Narrow end here to put the money in, bigger end at the bottom for the money to flow through. The new shekel horn was for this year's shekel, this year's half shekel. So donations for the current year's collection of shekels. The old shekel horn, which was next to it, was if you owed from last year. Yeah, the installment plan. The third horn, the nests, were to be spent for dove offerings. The fourth horn was for young pigeon burnt offerings. The fifth horn was for wood. So that you gave an offering so that they would have the wood to burn on the altar. Then the next horn, the sixth horn, was for frankincense, so that they could buy frankincense to burn, so that you'd have a pleasant smell in the temple, because you can imagine what the smell of blood was like. Gold. There was the next horn, number 7, was for gold. That was to help them buy the golden utensils or the golden instruments to use in the Holy of Holies. And then chests 8 through 13 were remainder chests. So they were the remainder of the guilt offering, the remainder of the burnt offering, the remainder of the Nazarites offering, the remainder of the lepers offering, and donative offerings, which were general contributions for offerings made when the altar was not occupied. So, 13 horns for you to put money in. There were folks going along choosing, if they're doing the new shekel, the old shekel, what they're giving to, and Jesus notices them giving money into numerous horns, not just the one, not just a single, not just a half shekel. They're giving lots. And they're doing that out of their abundance to the work of God in the temple.